we might kick off. So we're just going to do a little bit of a technical update. Just going to have a little chat briefly about pool and spa zones and barriers that limit our zones, and then a little bit of a chat about prohibited locations and or prohibited items in those zones. Okay, so not going to delve right into pool zones, but just have a brief chat about a couple of aspects as they relate to pool zones. So once again, thanks to Haymans. Haymans is a fantastic supporter of ours and a fantastic supplier. So thank you to Haymans for sponsoring our webinar today. Okay, so swimming pools and spa pools and fixed barriers and prohibited locations. So basically whenever we get to a pool or we've got a plan of a pool, where we've got a bit of a process we follow. So first thing we need to do is to classify our zones. So, you know, if it's a pool exceeding 5,000 litres, clause 6321 applies. Spa pool is exceeding 680 litres up to 5,000 litres, clause 6323 applies. And then if it's less than 680 litres, we go back to clause 6.2 and it's considered under the baths and showers clause, okay? So once we've classified our zones, then we can select the equipment that can go into those zones, okay? Predominantly, we're talking about pool equipment, lighting, socket outlets, things of that nature. And the clause there is 6.3.4, and it's really well represented in table 6.2. Okay, and we need to be well aware of our IP ratings of our equipment, and in particular how IP ratings work. So barriers in particular come into play when we've got limited space. Okay, so in that case, normally we're getting a barrier, and then we're using that to limit our zones so we can install equipment that we might not otherwise fit into that space, okay? So at the beginning of 6.3 there's a little paragraph. It's at the bottom of the slide there. It's ceiling, walls with and without windows, with or without windows, doors, floors, barriers, and fixed partitions. Example, a 1.5 metre solid fence that limit the extent of a room or area containing a swimming pool, paddling pool, spa pool or tub, and fixed partitions that provide effective protection against spraying or splashing water, limit the associated zones. Okay, so this isn't, you know, covered really well in the wiring rules, not very covered very well. So it talks about a minimum 1.8 metre high fixed partition, and probably the best information we have in the wiring rules is in figure 6.17. That's on the left-hand side of that slide there, and but that can be a little bit hard to follow. Years ago, I had a very good tradesman explain it to me, and he called it his piece of string rule. So I'm going to explain how to use the piece of string rule, okay? And this made it very clear for me, because as tradesmen, generally, we're very practical people and we need to get it right up here before we understand how it actually works, okay? So if we've got a fixed barrier and it's we're wanting to use it to limit our zones, okay? If we've got a piece of string and we cut it at 2 meters long, and that's going to give us zone 1 for our swimming pool that's greater than 5,000 litres, okay? We have one end of that piece of string, okay, and it's going to slide around the inside edge of our swimming pool. The other end okay, is going to sweep out and mark out the extent of our zone 1, okay, and where it wraps around that barrier, that provides the extent of zone 1, okay. You probably see me here, I'm doing my hand gestures because I'm thinking about it as I'm doing it as well. So 2-meter piece of string in tension, and we're wrapping it around the pool and around our barrier, and that's providing the extent of our zone 1, okay. So as it wraps around, let's say our barrier is 1.5 meters away, we're going to have 0.5 meter that wraps around the edge of that barrier, okay. So we end up with a 0.5 meter radius. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, no questions. It's very hard having a one-way conversation and presenting these. You feel like you're not getting any feedback sometimes. So, you know, if you're not getting something, by all means, shoot the questions through. So our piece of string, we're imagining that for our different zones. For a spa pool, we're 1.25 meters, okay? If we want to map out our extent of zone 2, we're 3.5 meters. So we're at 1.5 meters for our zone 2, but we've got our additional 2 meters from zone 1, okay? So that's where that 3.5 comes in, okay? So, you know, we're marking out our barriers now. So it can get very difficult in some situations to fit everything in, and it's always best to do these things at the beginning of the project, so you know we can plan out exactly what we're trying to do. We've got a couple of good documents out on that now. I will make sure they get emailed through to all the webinar attendees. So we've got a homeowner guide for pools, and we've also got a pool builder guide for pools. They're co-branded with Sparza, so hopefully that is helpful with our clients. But it's always very difficult pool installations when the pool is built, the fences are in, the pool equipment's in, and then we're on site and we're getting asked to hook the equipment up. It's makes for a very sticky situation sometimes, particularly if there's been no allowances made for us to get our wiring in where it needs to be. Okay, so Troy's feeling my pain there. It's yeah, very difficult one-way conversation, so I'm doing my best, bear with me. Okay, the other thing I wanted to touch on was prohibited locations, and keep in mind there will be some additional state-based network provider supply authority items to be considered. So for example, in Queensland, our metering providers will not move through any pool area or pool fenced area to the metering location. And I'm pretty sure that's the case in most states. The other one is overhead supplies. They will not erect any overhead supplies to above a pool area, a pool fenced area, okay? So a couple of state-based things to be wary of, but the requirements are different in every state. So it's very difficult to talk on the specifics of that. However, if you have anything specific in your state and you need guidance on, as always, call the tech line and we can help you with that specific request. Okay, so some of the things that we see regularly in pool zones and they end up a legacy item because the pool builder goes and builds the pool, and then our switchboard or our inverter for our solar or some distributor electrical equipment ends up in the pool zone. And, you know, just there's, it's a probably lack of education, that's where those documents that we've published come in. We're encouraging everyone to engage an electrician early. Pool bonding is electrical work, needs to be done by a licensed electrician, all these type of things. So if we can educate as many as we possibly can with that aspect of the process, hopefully we're not in these sticky situations where we come to site and we find items that are prohibited within pool zones, okay? So battery storage banks, standby generators and their cables and connection equipment. Our pillars, in Queensland, our green buoys, in Western Australia, what do we call them? Our domes. Okay, so all these are prohibited locations. Okay, and yeah, it gets a little bit difficult sometimes moving forward and getting to the end of these jobs when there's been no allowance made for us to do our installation along the way. Okay, so as always, ring up with your specific questions, contact us in the tech team. I hope we've covered off, what we need to do. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention there. Okay, there is a note in there under spa pools and tubs. There's a note there that a lot of us miss, and it's electrical equipment installed behind a fixed panel that provides a degree of protection not less than IPX4, to which access may only be gained by the use of a tool, would not be considered to be in a classified zone. Okay, so we need a panel of not less than IPX4, and then we can put our spa pumps or whatever behind that. Okay, generally these are purpose-built bits of kit, and they've got a specific IP rating. There is allowance for those in the standard, in the wiring rules. Okay, so hopefully that whets your appetite and answers any questions you had around those couple of specific aspects of pool zones. Everyone good? Thank you, everyone. This is going to be recorded, so for reference, you can get back to this later. It'll be put on the webinars library on our website. But thanks, Troy. Thanks, Alesco. And yeah, we'll end that there. Okay. Have to work out how to end. Okay, cheerio, guys. Oh, hang on, I just see a question come through. In SA, we had issues with the builder. They didn't understand it. Yep. Okay, Troy, I'm going to send out these couple of documents, and hopefully that answers those questions, and we can provide this information. So the whole idea is we need to make it clear that bonding's electrical work. A lot of the stuff that they do, like bonding on their earth and leaving a tail out for us to connect, that's electrical work. It really needs to be done by a licensed electrician. And then, the other thing is we need to be engaged early in the process so we can provide all the information, okay? So Alesco, we've got a question there. What if a pool is installed and council has a fence within 1.25 metres? Okay, so, pool's installed, if it's new work and the fence is in 1.25 metres of the pool edge, and it's conductive, there's a couple of other boxes that need to be ticked as well. So it's got to be conductive pool shell or structure, and it's got to be supplied by, electrical pool filtration equipment. Then that pool fence needs to be bonded. Okay, so If it ticks those two boxes, then we also have to do the bonding of all other conductive parts, basically greater than 100 millimeters within arm's reach of the pool edge. Okay, does that answer those questions, guys? I'm going to tick those off as answered. Have we got any other questions? If not, I'm going to wrap up. And if you would like, if you've got any other questions or you want to raise them offline, give us a call on the tech line and we'll help you out with those. It's very hard in a webinar space to answer specific questions because it's only a one-way conversation. But yeah, hit us up on the tech line and we'll be able to help you out. Okay. So I'm going to end that there, guys. Thanks, Alesko. Thanks, Troy, for being in attendance today. Okay. Cheerio.